Yes, sir. They are. Yeah. I just did. I forgot 2 minutes ago. I finally did a screen share. I mean, right as you were calling, I clicked go live. And it shows the. Okay. Hold on one second. Test. Tell me if you hear test come through. Oh, I did just a minute ago. Hey, FBG family. Hey, things are crazy. So glad you're here tonight, but who would have thought 6 months ago if I had told you that all of your Wednesday night adult discipleship, kids on mission, collide for our teenagers, that we were going to host it in your living room? You thought I was crazy. But yet here we are. And if you could see what's happening around me, you would get a kick out of it. I've got a webcam that has like masking tape taped to a stand so it doesn't fall over. I've literally kicked it like 3 or 4 times, and a little bit stressed out that I'm going to end up messing this whole thing up for you guys. But talk about things changing. They changed on us less than 24 hours ago. At 1 o'clock yesterday, several of us were in the worship center making our final plans for some technology things for our family roundtable. And as we were walking into that meeting, we got the official word that, hey, we are now shelter in place. So the good news is shelter in place does allow our families to continue to do live worship on Sunday morning. So Pastor Kevin and Pastor Kurt and their whole crew is going to be leading worship like they have been the last 2 weeks. And you'll be able to log in via Vimeo or Facebook or YouTube, probably wherever you're watching from now. So we'll still be able to do that. But we decided to make a last minute change on our very first family roundtable. And so tonight we're going to be maybe 15 or 20 minutes here talking about what is coming and talking about some ways to stay connected. So let me tell you what next Wednesday night will look like when we go a little bit more in depth, because this is what our original plan was going to look like. Myself, as well as LJ, our kids pastor, and Michael Sawyer, our youth pastor, and Kendall Ringler, who's our campus associate working with teenagers out at Liberty Hill, we're going to all gather around and have a roundtable experience talking through some key elements to discipleship. And when we found out that it was going to be difficult to do with the shelter in place, we decided, hey, let's take another week to get our technology right. So if all goes well, and as a praying people, pray that it all goes well, we'll come live to you just like this, except instead of seeing just me on your screen, you'll see all four of us in four different screens, all from our own houses as we shelter in place. And what we want to do while we have this unique experience is we want to take all of our families through the family crafted discipleship plan. That's going to be one part of what we do. If you were in worship way back in May of 2019, I did a 2-part sermon series where I introduced our family crafted discipleship plan. And what it is, it's an intentional plan for families, for moms, dads, or if maybe you're a grandparent with kids at home, whoever, to lean in and be intentional in discipling the next generation. One of the questions I get asked all the time, and it was asked about tonight's event, is this just for families? It's not. You may be single, have no kids in the home, and the discipleship plan works for you because it's about being intentional in our walk with the Lord. And so for the next several weeks, we're going to take some elements of it and actually walk through it just step by step, very slowly. So by the end of this quarantine, when we're all allowed to have a giant party at church together, we'll all have our discipleship plans done and they'll be ready. And so we're going to do that in a roundtable with those 4 pastors and maybe some others that we invite along the way to dialogue, talk about some different elements. Next week's will be spiritual disciplines. So you'll hear from your pastors and maybe some other people talking about spiritual disciplines, how we practice them in our home, how we practice them in our lives, what they are. And one of the fun things, we're going to try some question and answer. So with this technology, you'll be able to, as you're watching, maybe ask some questions, and we'll have a segment in the roundtable where we'll just field some questions from you guys, and we'll try to answer them on the fly. If you give us some really hard ones, we might hit pause and give us some time to get you an answer the next week. So roundtable over family crafted discipleship plan. We're also going to have some elements where we just talk about family ministry, student ministry, kids ministry, and those are going to be questions that we'd love to hear from you. So if you have a topic that you go, I'd like to hear what you guys would say about X, Y, or Z, email it to us. You can send it to me. Our emails are on the church website. We would love to take a segment and dialogue that way. One of the other things we want to do that I think will be a lot of fun is we want to try to do some games. Our kids, who I think are watching tonight, who would be in Kids on Mission, they do a lot of fun stuff on a Wednesday. I know our students in Collide, they play games all the time. So we want to do some games through this new world. And so again, we're trying to figure out the technology, but we've got some ideas where you can play at home amongst your family, but also be able to play against everyone in real time. So one thing you might figure out between tonight and next Wednesday is how to put a computer to your TV so that you can watch the live stream on your TV and have a phone or another device so that you can play some games if we do those. So one of the things we're going to try to do is try to play Family Feud with actual families from FBG. So if you've got Skype, we're going to try to Skype you in where everyone can see you and see us and see the Family Feud board. It's going to be a technological nightmare probably, but we're working towards that. So if you want to play some games like that, if you're a family and you want to compete in that, send us an email, say, hey, sign us up for Family Feud. And if we can make that work, then we're going to get it going. So, but you're feeling what we're feeling. The world's changing, and it's changing faster than we know. Who would have thought, again, that we'd be doing this? Who would have thought that you'd have to go to 4 or 5 stores to find toilet paper? It is just a different world. But I want to share something with you tonight, and I'm going to take over the screen for a second and put up a PowerPoint in 1 second if I can figure this out. I want to show you some things that have changed in the world in the last 10 years. So roughly 10 years. Roughly 10 years ago, we didn't have some of the following things. We didn't have iPads or tablets. We just had our regular computers. We didn't have GPS on phones. I mean, if you're a teenager sitting in the room, you're probably still not even really old enough to remember that. But if you're a parent, you remember when we had to print off those Yahoo Maps and follow them, or even before Yahoo Maps, when we had to open up an actual map and plot a course and then spend the next 20 minutes trying to fold the map back together. It's a whole new world. 10 years ago, we didn't have GPS on our phones. There wasn't a Google browser, which is now, as you see there, over 60% of the market share. There's no Snapchat. There's no Airbnb. There's no Spotify. We were hopefully getting our music maybe on iTunes, or we remember the days of cassettes and records and maybe even 8 tracks, depending on how old you are. There was no Instagram. There's no Kickstarter, crowdfunding, no GoFundMe. There's no Lyft and Uber. There was no Pinterest, which, if you think about it, how did we even have a baby shower 10 years ago with no Pinterest? There's no Square. There's no Venmo. I mean, you can see there when you look at it on a screen, in the last 10 years, the world has changed dramatically. If you go back an additional 10 years, so roughly 20 years ago, we didn't have iPhones or smartphones. Wi-Fi we had, but it barely existed. I was in college. I remember when I got my first dial-up and an email address. 20 years ago, there was no Google. I don't know how we found information. We used encyclopedias. There was no social media. There were no podcasts, no PayPal. There's no Wikipedia, no Netflix, no Bluetooth. We had to listen to our music through our headphones with wires. There's no Kindle or e-readers. There was no YouTube, no Swiffer, no Febreze. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I got this list off the internet, and it wasn't until just a few moments ago that I realized how odd Swiffer and Febreze was to fit into this list. But regardless, they didn't exist either. So in the last 2 decades, 20 years is not that long. I mean, our world has radically changed. And I'm going to tell you about some other big change. Australia. Tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to stop the sharing so you don't have to stare at the globe the whole time. But it wasn't too long ago, 1994, when GPS was kind of getting going and people were using it, that the system was set up. And what we've learned in the last 25 some odd years is that Australia is literally moving. Australia moves at about 7 centimeters to the northeast every year. And they notice that because of what GPS does. GPS is set up on latitude and longitude lines, and the whole continent of Australia is literally about 5 feet away from where it was in 1994. Now, that's not a big deal. Nobody feels it. You don't walk around and feel Australia shifting under your feet. But in some technology where they have like GPS tractors that run robotically on their own, the map is different than what the real world is. And the reason why I say all that is we talk about, the last 10 years, last 20 years of change. Change is happening. But I want you to just consider the fact that even the mighty continents are changing. They move, they shift. And so we're in a world that is changing, and it will never be like it was. What we're experiencing now is like sudden change. It's like the ground underneath our feet is shifting. It's moving pretty quick. And if you've ever had that experience, I'm sure you have, like walking down the stairs and you start to slip, or you walk outside, there's a patch of ice and the ground moves under you pretty quickly. Your natural reaction is to reach out and try to grab onto something. If it's the stairs, you try to grab onto the rail to catch yourself. And so I'm going to go back over to the screen here in a second, because I want us to talk about a passage of scripture tonight, just briefly, and give you some homework with your family. When the world's shifting fast, when the ground underneath us is changing, and we want to grab onto something, we want to grab onto something stable. And Hebrews 13:8 is a great passage that tells us about stability. It says this. It says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, you know what that means? Like, this isn't the first virus that's gone through the world. And Jesus was there at the other ones. He was there during the Black Plague. He was there during major world events like world wars. He's been there from the beginning of time, and he hasn't changed. And so in this time where it feels like everything's changing, and we don't know what tomorrow holds, and we don't know what the next thing that the the government's going to ask us to do in order to try to keep people safe. As we feel uncomfortable with that, just remember that you can reach out and grab a hold of Christ. So that means during this time where it's different for us, if you are sheltered at home and maybe working from home, your schedule's a little different. You can probably spend some time in the Word that in a way that you haven't before. You can spend some time in prayer, in some depths, and in some deeper times with the Lord that maybe you haven't thought through. And so reach out, grab a hold of Him. And here's what I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you a screenshot discussion. I'm calling it the screenshot discussion because it's going to go away in a second, and you can screenshot it right now so that you can go back and do this with your family. So tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, as a family, look at the verses in Hebrews 13. We read 8 just then, but read verses 1 through 8 and ask these questions. What verse do you think is the most important for us over the next several weeks? Read those verses in light of what's happening. And then ask the question with your family, how can you practice each of these expectations that you'll find in those verses of the Lord? So do that. Spend some time. Make this unique moment in our history a moment where you can lean in, and it can be a powerful moment. I'm going to stay on the screen for a minute because I want to show you some ways that you can connect and in some different areas. One, for everyone. We are going to continue to have our 9:30 live worship every Sunday, same avenues that you've been viewing it through. And then 6:30 on Wednesday nights, we'll have the Roundtable. And again, it'll look different. Tonight's more announcement. Just want to give you a little bit of that Hebrews 13:8 to encourage you, but really want to get you set up for the future. And you can see on the screen, you can get those on Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube. For our kids ministry, on Sunday, would be a great time to walk our kids through their life group curriculum. It's going to be online. LJ will post it, I believe, on Fridays, and so it'll be there for you to download, and you can take your kids through. I did that this week with my fourth grader. We went through Jesus being presented in the temple, and we had a great time just sitting in a room, and we modified the curriculum that she would have normally been using to have some discipleship moments as a home. Monday through Saturday, about every other day of the week, about 3 p.m.-ish on Facebook, there'll be a post. Pat Connor, one of our all-star kids workers, has already posted up there. Chad Warren, our pastor of Connections, has done a thing for our students, our kids. And so log on with your kids. They are answering questions that our kids ministry has asked. And so that'll be a kind of fun way to connect. And then on Monday morning, via email, via Facebook, via the kids page at FBG, be looking for some helps that LJ is going to send out. There'll be some family, I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, some family activities to do, some challenges, and there'll be all kinds of different things. Make sure you follow that FBG Kids Facebook page. You'll get it there. In the youth ministry, this week, they've already started with their small groups on Zoom. So we had a successful, all 6 grades met, or all 7 grades met. And so those will continue on. Michael's been putting out information on where and when you log in for those. You can reach out to him if you don't know. Or if you can see right above that, you can subscribe to Remind. You can text at YouthFBG to the number 81010, and you'll get text updates of some of the things that are coming up. Coming up soon is going to be an online game night for students where they can log in and play some games and have some community. And then coming up real soon, they're doing a talent show online. So you might check into that. They are, I think, taking videos right now for that talent show. And then in adult ministry, if you're a mom or a dad and you're in a small group or a home group, we're asking those small groups and home groups to lead out on their own. And we have some tools for them if they need it. But for example, I have a home group, and so my home group will be meeting online instead of in homes on our regular schedule. And so we'll be using the Zoom app to do that. And so if you're in one, reach out to your small group leader and find out when and where you guys are meeting. If you're not in a small group, we've got some new groups to start. You can join in with some people and have some community talking about the sermons on Sunday morning. And who knows, you might make some great relationships that when this is all said and done, you can meet together in real life, real person. Be pretty incredible. And then online, there's a link that you can click at the FBG webpage. It was supposed to go up this afternoon. I believe it did. If you're looking for some ways to serve in which you can do that in this time. I want to give you this one last thing, and then we'll be done. Just kind of a freebie. Ministry Safe has created this. Ministry Safe is the company we use to do all of our background checks to keep our kids and our teenagers safe. They've created an app called Easter Now. And if you look up in the corner of your screen, you'll see the app icon. But I've downloaded, checked it out. It's a pretty cool app. It will walk you through Passion Week in real time. So download that. That might be a great thing to do as a family. We will be doing Easter online at this point. And so it's going to look different, but having something like this might add to the experience that you have. So I'm going to close this out, and we're going to be finished up here in a sec. Take that Hebrews 13, 1 through 8, and spend some time together as a family, walking through those two questions, looking at those verses. Get ready next week. We're going to jump into Family Crafted Discipleship Plan, talking about spiritual disciplines. Connect with your small group, connect with your home group, get in with some of the games, get in with some of the things that are happening in kids ministry, and let's make the most of this unique time. So before we sign off, here's what I've been thinking. I'm a big fan of The Day Tripper. And this is not a paid promotional. This is just a look into my life. I love the TV show. And if you watch it, you know, at the end of every episode, Chet says, "Vaya con Dios, amigos," and that's the end of the show. And I'm feeling like I need a tagline myself. He's already taken "Vaya con Dios, amigos." So I would love for you to post in the chat here on Vimeo or Facebook Live, whatever, some closing lines, some goodbyes, and if I use yours, I'm going to send your family something in the mail, like a surprise gift for helping me out. I'm going to try out some different ones each week. This week, all I've got is like "See you later, alligator," and that's not going to work. So help me with some taglines. Win your family a prize. We'll see you at worship on Sunday morning, and then we'll see you back here on Wednesday night at 6:30. Please reach out if you have any questions. Email us, call us, text us. Let us know how your pastor and your church can serve you. We're going to make it through this together, and it is going to be stories that are pretty incredible one day of what God's done in our life through these circumstances. We'll see you soon.